Hello friends, hope you all are doing really well. Today we'll be talking about the Indus system, and this is again a topic of the unit 3 of your geography textbook by Hemanath Sethi. Let us first understand that the river Indus is being fed by the glaciers of two main ranges, the Karakoram range and the Hindu Kush range. And since the glaciers of these two ranges are massive, so therefore there's tremendous amount of water in the river Indus. Now this thick line that you'll see here on the map is the river Indus. It's a very roughly drawn map of Pakistan, and the rivers that you can see in it, but just don't depend upon it because each line is not going to be perfect. It is just for your understanding. So see, now let's move on to how is this river entering into Pakistan. It's entering from Tibet, and when it enters in from Tibet and Kashmir, enters into Pakistan, so it's moving north west. This is the cardinal diagram. So this is north, south, this is west, and this is east. So it's moving north west. As it moves northwest, it moves between these two ranges, that is the Karakoram range and the Himalayan range, and forms deep gorges while moving between these two ranges. Gorges are valleys, deep valleys with very steep walls or steep sides, right? As it moves between these two valleys, then it starts to move southwest. When it moves southwest, now it's moving between two ranges, that is Hindu Kush and the Himalayas. Here again it's forming a lot of deep gorges, and then finally it leaves this mountainous area when it enters into Kalabagh. This is Kalabagh, and from there on it enters into the plains of Punjab and then Sindh, and then finally falls into the Arabian Sea. So this is the Arabian Sea, right? So that's the final end of the river Indus. Now let's move on to the tributaries of the river Indus. River Indus has eastern tributaries as well as western tributaries. First, let's discuss the eastern tributaries of river Indus. And why are we discussing this? Because this is very important. You can get a map question from it. These lines will be drawn, that is rivers would be drawn, and you'll be asked to locate. You would be asked to mark. For example, Mastang River. Where is Mastang River? Where is Chenab? Where is Gomal? So if you are by heart with the location of these rivers and on the map of Pakistan, you'll be easily able to locate them on the map whenever you get a map question like this. Now first on to the eastern tributaries. So the eastern tributaries, there are 5 main tributaries. Let us begin with Jhelum. So here you can see Jhelum. Okay, so the topmost line, this is Jhelum. Always remember it. Then you'll see it moves this line, this river moves down. It is being joined by Chenab. So Chenab joins it and they become one. Then further they go further south, then they are joined by Ravi. So Ravi also joins these two rivers, and then they become one. And then they go further south and they are joined by Satluj, and then they become one. So Satluj, when it was flowing through India, was joined by Beas earlier. Beas is another river which is not in Pakistan, but it is in India. So it was joined by Beas. So that is why we say we have 5 eastern tributaries of river Indus: Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, Satluj and Beas. So when all these 5 tributaries join together, they are called as Panjnad. Why Panjnad? Because Panj, okay, Panjnad. Once these rivers become Panjnad, then this river itself, this small tract of the river is called as Panjnad. Finally, this Panjnad joins the main river Indus at a place which is called as Mithankot, right? And then it flows as a single river and flows finally into the Arabian Sea. Now moving on to the western tributaries of the river Indus. So in the west you see there's river Kabul, which is branching out into Sawat and Mastang. Then below Kabul you will see there is Khurram and there is Tochi. So Khurram is on the top and Tochi a little up below it. And then further south you will see Gomal. Gomal branches out into several other channels. One of it is Zob. So the important rivers that you got to remember, I have marked all of them. You don't have to remember other rivers. These are more than enough if you learn them really well. So there is no point that you will miss out your map question in the exams. Now moving on to some of the important facts of river Indus. Now the river Indus, the Indus basin actually covers around 1 million square kilometers. Just imagine. And around 150 million people live in this area. So how important this entire basin would be for Pakistan and the people of Pakistan, you can imagine really well. And this river is around 3180 kilometer long, And if Pakistan has around 20 million hectares of cultivable land, so 60% of that 20 million hectares land is being irrigated by the river Indus. So that important is Indus system for Pakistan. Now let's talk about mean monthly discharge. When you see this word discharge, you don't have to get confused. Discharge actually means the amount of water that flows through a river. Now this graph that you see over here, this can be asked in your exam, as in they'll ask a question like, why is the mean monthly discharge of the river Indus, Jhelum, Chenab or Ravi higher in the months of June and July, and why is it less in the months of January, February or October, November, December? So the answer to this question is that during the months of June and July, you know what happens? It's the rainy season, it's the monsoon season, right? So during the monsoon season, the precipitation will be high. And one more thing, we know that the sun is shining brightly. It's the summer season. So when the sun is shining brightly, it is melting all the snow that is there on the mountains, on the mountain tops. So when that snow melts, what happens? The amount of water in the river simultaneously increases. That is why the discharge in all these rivers during the months of June and July is very high as compared to the other months of the year, right? So the Indus River has the highest discharge in the monsoon season, and it's being fed by the glaciers because the glaciers are being melted during the monsoon season, during the summer seasons, and it's being fed by glaciers from two ranges, Hindu Kush and Karakoram. These glaciers are bigger in size than any other glaciers. One more thing that I would want to add here is about dams and barrages. There are dams and barrages situated on this river Indus. And what is the purpose of the dams and barrages? Number one, it regulates the flow of water in the river. Number two, it reduces the loss of water to the sea because there are restrictions, okay? And dams are storing water. So, and they're also preventing floods. So these were some of the important features of the dams and barrages. Now one thing that might be a little surprising is that, see, I mentioned 4 rivers here, Indus, Jhelum, Chenab and Ravi, but Satluj and Beas are absent. Why are they absent? Now see, when the Indus Water Treaty was signed between India and Pakistan, India was given rights over 3 eastern tributaries of the river Indus, and those 3 eastern tributaries were Ravi, Satluj and Beas. So that is why the amount of water in Ravi, Satluj and Beas throughout the year is very, very limited. So that is why we are not even mentioning them. Ravi to a certain extent, but Satluj and Beas is not even there in Pakistan, and Satluj, it's almost dry. That is why. Okay, so now moving on to the western tributaries, the discharge in the western tributaries. Now the discharge in Swat and Kabul is comparatively higher as compared to the other rivers of the west, that is Tochi, Kurram and Gomal. Their discharge is very, very low. But generally throughout the year, throughout the summer season, the discharge in these rivers increases. Why does it increase? Because of the high levels of precipitation, and also because the snow is melting. So therefore the discharge in these rivers will be higher in the summer season. So with this I end, and with this we also end the topic of the river Indus. In the next video we'll be talking about the rivers of Balochistan. I hope this video was helpful, and it's going to help you in your exams as well. So till my next video, I'm Nida Umer signing off. Do share my video if it was beneficial to you. Take care. Bye bye.